Hello, and welcome to the Anime Explorations podcast. My name is Alex.
I'm Tora.
I'm David.
And we are a monthly anime book club style podcast where we watch an anime, and whether it's a television series or movie, and we talk about it. And before we get started with the show itself, usually we talk about whatever shows we are watching right now. And we're coming up on the end of the spring anime season, heading up towards summer. So, what are you still watching, and have you dropped anything at the moment?
Apothecary Diaries still going strong. Almost too slow in pacing. Oh, man. Every week it ends and we're like, come on!
It does seem like a show that'll be better binged.
Yeah.
Still watching G-Quux, and still reserving my judgment. I like some of the stuff they're doing. I'm not entirely certain where they're going yet, and there's 2 episodes left. It's like, is this gonna get a second cour? Or is this really ending at 12? And if so, that's gonna be kinda disappointing.
That is kind of been the trend for the past couple Gundam series. We're ones where we wish the show were longer, and had more room to let its plot breathe. And
I think that's actually a problem going back to, like, the first Gundam.
First Gundam had other reasons why it didn't have enough time for its plot to breathe that weren't part of deliberate production intent.
Yeah. Reduced to 43. Well, reduced to, like, 36, and then given an additional 7. Pushing it up to 33. Although don't quote me on those exact numbers.
Executive meddling has always been a thing.
Yeah. I have, also for those who want a fun conversation with Gundam related stuff, one of the podcasts I listen to is the Giant Robot FM podcast, and they are going to be doing a series of book club episodes, going very deep, doing very deep diving, like super deep, like the discussions they do for their weekly G-Quux podcast are like 3 to 4 times as long as the episodes themselves. Mind you, they also have a lot of tangents, but still. But anyway, they're going to be delving into the Gundam novels, all of the Gundam novels.
There's some. Honestly, the novels are really interesting. Well, the Tomino novels are a really interesting look into his views.
Actually, I should clarify the Tomino novels, specific novels. So Universal's, adaptation of First Gundam, the Zeta novels, probably Buccharati's Children, that sort of thing.
Break this down for me. Are we talking like 10 books or less, or is this like a Star Wars Legends situation where there's 8,000?
Essentially, Tomino writes novel. Like, the original Gundam novels were made sort of based on his original notes, but after the show came out.
Okay.
Beltotchika's Children is the novel adaptation with changes of the movie Char's Counterattack, which itself was based on a novel that he wrote.
This is all getting very convoluted.
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
Like, he's not a... Okay, maybe the translations I've read do suck, but he's not a great writer. Like, it's not that he's bad, it's just that there's very little subtext to his writing.
The first episode that they've done, they have not gotten into the books proper yet. I'll probably drop a link to the episode in the show notes because this is on their main feed, so it's not Patreon Patreon exclusive. From their the show notes is the very directness and lack of subtlety is a Tomino thing. It's not specifically related to the translation by the guy's name just fell out of my head. He wrote manga. Frederick Schott. This is not that's not a Frederick Schott thing for the translation. And it's bluntness. That's a Tomino thing.
Yeah. which you can tell in his work. He tells good stories, and there's a lot going on under the surface, but there's not a lot of like deep analysis that you can put into a lot of stuff of his. That does not stop it from being, and which is sort of the opposite of Hideaki Anno, where there is so much deep going on, but a good bit of it he did not intend. I'm throwing in symbolism here, but what does it mean? It's cool.
Yeah. Feels like all of the obvious references come down to, I just thought this was neat, and meanwhile the things that he's unconsciously putting in there are like extremely interesting.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be. So I'm looking forward to that full discussion. They just finished doing a full watch through of Megazone 2-3, which is 2 good movies, and then they made a third one. That's not just me saying that. When it came to the original localization of those movies, Carl Masick, like, he licensed the third movie because the third series because they made it, but it's like, even he like said, he was like, I don't know why they made this.
No one needs to see this.
I mean, Masick gets so much crap, but he was also so important for bringing so much anime to the West. Like, just so... The man loves anime, and he loves sharing it. And it really does come through.
Yep.
Will I ever forgive him for what happened with Robotech? Yeah, absolutely. It's Harmony Gold's fault.
Blame where blame goes.
Speaking of people who have passed on, we do need to get into our bit of news stuff real quick. Actually, before I do that, I do have the shows I am watching real fast.
Oh, yeah.
Still watching, I haven't really dropped anything since. So still watching G-Quack, still watching Your Forma. Your Forma got surprisingly violent for a couple of recent episodes because they're investigating a serial killer. And so one of the main characters of the show is a human form android. It is an android, which has sort of Asimov's laws applied to it. And one of the plots in the episodes has him being held captive by a serial killer who murders his partner in a very gruesome manner involving a chainsaw, and forces him to watch.
Classic.
Yeah. And so, like, up to this point, this is something where, like, oh, I could show this, like, I watch anime with my parents on Friday and Saturday nights each week. Like, oh, this is something I could show my parents. And because they're into science fiction, they enjoy classic science fiction, so they dig everything this is doing with the Asimov's laws and that sort of stuff. And then that episode hit. I'm like, my dad's would probably roll with this, but I think my mom would have problems.
His tolerance levels is different.
And also what you're tolerant of.
Yeah.
Indeed. Other than that, Apothecary Diary is great. Kowloon Generic Romance and Windbreaker is great. Windbreaker also, just in time for Pride Month, we have the story arc involving the gender fluid member of the big sort of elite four of the 4 kings of Bufarin. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Are you still watching Rock is a Lady's Modesty? Did that one finish?
Also very good. Speaking of shows for Pride Month, with the Disaster Lesbian Rock series.
Woo!
As one of my friends was talking about, joked online, one of the discussions joked. So we now have 2 Dami Mommies and a bratty sub.
I love rock music and the Locked Tomb series. It sounds like this is for me.
All right. And other than that, also, like, weirdly just in time for Pride Month, I'll just briefly touch on Please Put Them on Takamine-san. They introduced a lesbian character for that show as well. Where it made me for a bit of a funny bit, like, oh, is this show going to become like a love triangle with another romantic interest for the guy? Well, it is a love triangle, but not as but not the way you expected. In terms of also interested in the other in the female lead. So okay.
Nice.
But also, like, she's more romantically perceptive than the male and female leads as well, in the sense of her being like, oh, these two characters actually like each other a lot. I want to try and get them together, even though these two can't spit it out. It's like, I am appreciating, after decades of the sort of Showa and Heisei romantic comedy tropes of miscommunication and can't spit it out, of our new Reiwa romantic comedy era of characters who either are together from the jump or have people around them who get that these people like each other and are actively trying to get them to be together, as rather than just spinning our wheels for however long we can stretch out the sales of this manga. All right.
Show's
Moving
52 episodes. How long is it going to last? In the last episode, we'll cut right before they confess. And hope for a second season.
How dare.
Yeah. It's also always amusing with this kind of stuff, particularly when it comes to the fan service series, where it's like, these characters have seen each other naked, have probably made contact with each other while they were naked, but they have not actually ever held hands.
Yep. God forbid.
But anyway, moving on to news. I mentioned Betrays earlier, so we'll start with the more lightly anime-related one. So Peter David passed away since our last podcast. Now, we would not normally think of him as being anime or manga related. He's generally well known for his spectacular, or I should say, his incredible run on The Incredible Hulk. That really redefined the character. His run on X Factor. If you do not or have not listened to Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, I refer you to their episodes covering Peter David's X Factor run. He is a classic comics writer. He's also had tremendous amount of done excellent work on the Star Trek franchise, writing various novels. He's written episodes of Babylon 5. Check out my friend Blaine Dowler's Babylon 5 30 Years Later podcast, where they reviewed some of the episodes that he has written. But he also has worked before his passing, worked in manga. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, in the manga bubble, you had up-and-coming comics authors and established comics authors getting brought in to do manga localizations. Kelly Suzukonic did a run with doing localizing various books and manga and novels for Tokyo Pop, for example, including localizing the Slayers novels that they published. But when Del Rey started up their manga line, which eventually became I believe it's Kodansha USA. When they were doing their publication of Negima by Ken Akamatsu, they brought in Peter David to do the localization of those early volumes of the manga. I actually have a couple of the volumes that he did, and I believe his localization is still the one that's used for those volumes. So, I had to give that bit of a shout out there. We don't think about the ways that comics, American comics and manga sometimes connect, but it's worth bringing up in cases like this. So, yeah. I don't know if either of you have any familiarity with Peter David's work.
Oh, yes. Literally yesterday, I was telling Luke about his... because he created Young Justice. The 90s essentially version of the Teen Titans with the then Impulse, then Superboy, and then just Robin.
There's also Teen Titans, because comics are confusing as hell.
Well, Teen Titans had actually...
Stop. Continue with your original thought.
Oh, I was telling him about the Amazing Run. And just the way he was able to bring humor into pretty much everything in order to keep, like, otherwise very, very dark storylines from becoming too depressing to read.
Yeah.
So many wonderful characters and so many great storylines. And it's not his fault they ended it the way they did. Fucking Graduation Day.
Oh, comics. Rare that they stick the landing, isn't it?
I mean, they ended it just so they could start a new Teen Titans comic. And that... because the show was popular at the time. Let's move on. I will rant about...
I know. I'm sorry to be cutting you off, but I know.
No, it's important. You keep the rants from it getting out of hand.
Also, related to a series that we've covered previously on the show. So the Record of Lodoss War original novel has been licensed for some time by Seven Seas. This is the novel that adapted the OVA series that we covered for our first tabletop role-playing game anime episode we did for Record of Lodoss War. Well, in the past, the novel had only been available just as a print novel, either as a print book or as a digital release through Kindle or Bookwalker, or that sort of thing. It's now finally gotten an audiobook, in English, read by Dan Bittner, who has worked on some of the Star Wars audiobooks for like the High Republic novels and that sort of thing. I'm interested to listen to that. I'm interested to see that they're doing differently from the J Novel Club approach, which is where whenever they're doing something that has a anime adaptation, they will pick a voice actor from the original series or one of the adaptations of it to do the reading. So they did not go that route here. But that's all right. I'm looking forward to picking this up.
Seems like it would be a related but not quite the same skill set. I have great respect for people who read audiobooks. Like, since I've had a kid and I've tried to read books to my kid, like, sustained reading is actually really difficult. Man, your voice gets tired.
Yeah.
Also trying to make it... Also the ability to differentiate characters.
Which, yes, some readers of audiobooks do and some don't care about.
Indeed. I appreciate... One of the things I appreciate with the Slayers audiobook. So that one is... Those are read by the voice, English dub voice of Lena Inverse. And those books, if you haven't read them, they are written in the first person from Lena's perspective. So what it means is, what she ends up doing is for like lines by Gowry and Zelgadis and that sort of thing, is Lisa Ortiz, the reader, what she does is she plays those characters as Lena doing impressions of Gowry and Zell and that sort of thing. Yeah, and good news, by the way, also, if you don't use Audible, if you use Libro FM instead, this is not a Audible exclusive release, which is important to mention, since it's good to support audiobook retailers outside of the Amazon ecosystem.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make my way out of that, but there are some publishers where it's like they've just only done stuff through Amazon, or like the publisher was Audible in the first place back in the day before they were bought by Amazon, which makes things a little tricky.
It's amazing how we're supposed to have laws against monopolies in this country, and yet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I won't get political on you.
No, that's okay. It's a fair. It's a fair and valid complaint to have, and it's like I agree. It's good when we have multiple ebook retailers we can get books from. It's good to have multiple audiobook retailers to get audiobooks from, and so forth.
I saw something on TikTok this week that I have to mention. They're making a sequel movie to Ronin Warriors, or your Ronin Samurai Troopers. And I don't know. As one of those original Toonami girlies, the absolutely unhinged dub that they did for Ronin Warriors has a special place in my heart.
I mean, it doesn't look like the announcement trailer. It doesn't look like a sequel. It looks like a remake.
But it's a sequel with a different character. The animation looks really nice. It's recognizably Ronin Warriors.
The problem is that what it reminds me most is like Sailor Moon Crystal, which the first two episodes the animation was really good, and then it went to crap.
This is a movie, though. It's not a series.
I know, but still, this is very clearly nostalgia fueled.
Yes.
So I have concerns.
I can't refute that.
I hope that it turns out well. One of the reasons why I have been hesitant to watch the new film version of Rose of Versailles is not because it's a musical, but because it tries to adapt all of Rose of Versailles in one movie. And so I don't know if this is meant to be like a true spiritual successor thing, one shot, plotted accordingly, or if it's trying to redo the conflicts from the original series over the course of set in the present day, but over the course of one movie. But I can see that becoming unpleasantly plot crowded.
Hard to tell, but yeah.
Yeah.
But, I think we live in this sudden moment where a lot of animated movies are getting unnecessary live-action adaptations. So I'd much rather talk about original animated properties that are getting expanded upon. Even if it ends up not being great, at least it's trying to do something new and moving the animation forward.
Trying to do something new by bringing back a almost 40-year-old property.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You could argue that there's just a certain number of stories that get retold.
But when it comes down to it, as they say, there's only two real stories. Man goes on a journey or man comes home.
Excuse you. Person goes on a journey.
Okay, it's a quote. But yes, an individual goes on a journey or an individual comes home. It's either someone changes or someone recognizes that they have changed.
Well, I'm not 100% sure I agree with that quote, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that there are only so many stories you can tell.
Well,
I'm not opposed to
probably think of
but
speaking of not saying nostalgia, this is actually a new story that I literally just stumbled across. This is more a thing that was not available has become available sort of situation. Cool. So a while back, one of the news stories I discussed, not so much news stories, but thing I discussed for in advance of episode was a one of the OVA film festivals that they've had at the Hollywood Theater in Portland. And one of the movies that we watched was the anthology film Mani Mani, also known as Neo Tokyo, which at the time was spectacularly not in print. It was not in print at that time. That has now changed. It is now available for streaming on Crunchyroll. It's only in DVD standard definition 480p, but it's all there. Framing story, the framing story, the Running Man, Order to Stop Construction. It's all there.
That's always cool. Making stuff available.
Yep. One last news story of mine. So we need to talk about anime. We talked about the Anime Awards last year, and that's last month, with the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, and I had completely missed that there is a more critic proctored anime award out there, specifically part of the Los Angeles Critics Association's Astra TV Awards, where they have a category for Best Anime, along with a category for Best Voiceover Performance, which is non-anime specific. So they had their ceremony earlier this month, and the winner for Best Anime Series was Dragon Ball Daima, beating Dan to Dan, Fire Force Season 3, Lazarus Solo Leveling Season 2, and The Apothecary Diaries Season 2.
Okay, those are all, like, this year.
I don't know that what the rule criteria is for eligibility. And the lead voiceover performance went to Alex Lee for playing Sung Jun Woo in Solo Leveling Season 2.
Sung Jinu.
He seems like a great guy, Alex Lee.
He does.
Yeah.
Yep. Their other nominees were Stephanie Dodoni for Child Son Goku, Caitlin Glass for One Piece Season 21, and Zolo Marduena for Sakamoto Days. Let me check something real quick. There also were a bunch of I'm looking at the Anime News Network article. They're only listing the anime nominees. I want to see what the non-anime nominees are, because usually there's going to be somebody from like Lower Decks or that sort of thing on there.
Right, I saw that.
Okay, so yeah, it was also so best lead voiceover. Other nominees were this is Alex Borstein for Family Guy Holiday Special, Johnny Young Bosch for Devil May Cry, Seth MacFarlane for Family Guy Holiday Special, and Kaylee Cuoco for Harley Quinn were the other nominees for lead. And then for supporting voiceover, Justin Bright, the winner for that was Jack Quaid for Lower Decks.
I mean, it wasn't a bad performance, but I don't think his Season 5 performance was as strong as, his character didn't have as much fun stuff to do.
Sure.
That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, but the other people he was up against for Lower Decks for Best Supporting Voiceover was Justin Briner for Solo Leveling, Jamie Chung for Batman Caped Crusader, Caitlin Glass. This is where the Caitlin Glass and Solo Marduena nominees were. That was Caitlin Glass for One Piece, Solo Marduena for Sakamoto Days, and little one here, J.K. Simmons for Invincible.
That was pretty good.
that was an award-winning performance. Well, okay, that's the problem. Is J.K. Simmons? But you always get
Simmons. You know who it is.
It's not just that. It's like you always get like an amazing performance from J.K. Simmons, and he doesn't do voice differentiation for his characters. Like Tenzin sounds like Nolan, sounds like JJJ, sounds like his characters sound the same. He's an amazing actor. He's an amazing voice actor. But
he's one of the voice actors with a distinctive voice as opposed to a chameleon voice.
Yeah.
It's like when you cast J.K. Simmons, I would describe him as the voice acting equivalent of when you're casting, an actor's name just fell out of my head. Just a second. George Clooney. It is like when you're casting George Clooney for something. Like George Clooney, like he has a good acting range, but he's not going to vanish into a role like Al Pacino used to do, like Robert De Niro used to do, or that sort of thing. He's like, I'm George Clooney. I can adjust my emotional range and presence to fit the character I'm playing, but I'm not going to put on an accent necessarily for this.
Like there's a much bigger conversation we can have about, directors with big name actors and how comfortable they are with, telling someone to change an effect, and how much of, how great and little control they have, and how many times they don't want you to. Like, we hired this actor to give this exact performance. So, there's a huge conversation we can have here on this subject, but we should probably approach the anime we're supposed to be reviewing today.
Indeed. So, let's get to our anime of the month, or a continuation of our anime from last month, which is the back half of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Golden Wind.
Sorry. I had to.
Yeah, that
you didn't, but I respect that you did.
Like, that incidental piece comes up a lot in this back half of the season. So yeah.
Yeah, when it's trying to be more...
It's the JoJo motif, baby!
Yeah. When Giorno is becoming the JoJo.
So the first half of the season, we had the rise to power of Bruno Buccharati, with Giorno Giovanna sort of becoming his number two, and then being sent on this road trip, on this journey across Italy to find the daughter of the boss, and bring her to this island. And we opened this season by learning that the reason that she was being brought there is because the boss was going to kill her. At which point,
for some reason,
which leads to Buccharati and going, okay, we're time to skip to the end game of my plan, which is kill the boss and take over Passione, the Italian stand mafia.
My boy Bruno, he puts that together instantly. Like, if it was me in that elevator, I would have been like, oh no, a last-ditched attempt by more people to stop us from reaching the boss. I wouldn't have instantly gone to, oh, it's the boss, and he had me bring her here to kill her. But no, Bruno is correct.
Bruno is correct, and it does not make any sense. Not that he's not correct. The boss's entire plan is dumb. It's dumb.
Why didn't he just say, escort Trish to this room and leave her there?
That is what he told him to do! He just got a little overexcited and decided, oh, I'm gonna kill her.
Jump the gun there, boss.
Didn't even actually kill her, just cut off her hand. The thing is that the boss is...
Yes, let's talk about the boss.
I genuinely, when we discovered what
spoilers ahoy.
Oh god, yeah, we were just straight into the spoilers because I was genuinely disappointed with when we found out about the boss, like when we found out what his deal was. Because when it was starting out, like, and we were getting, you know, his double, whose name...
Doppio.
Thank you.
Poor
double.
Dumb Doppio.
Like, what I genuinely thought that it was that Doppio's stand was the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I thought. I was like, okay, this is the first time we're seeing, like, an actual independent stand, and he's just, like, manipulating his body. Like, that's what I thought was, you know, that's not what we actually got. What we got was probably a guy with multiple personalities who was able to physically change his body when he switches between them. It's not that well explained, but it is less awesome than I had thought it was up to that point.
It almost is like it's two separate people with separate backstories, yet that somehow are the same person inhabiting the same body.
Yeah.
And they don't go into whether Diavolo, like, ate his twin in the womb or something, but they establish that this person has two souls, which is very interesting.
Honestly, this feels like the story got away from the creator. Like, they reached a point and you're like,
a little crazy.
Oh no, I fell asleep and I got too drunk and I sent in the rough draft before I had time to clean it up.
I did think all the soul swapping stuff was amazing, though. That's just one of those out there moves that you would never expected that JoJo is full of.
I think something that ties into the plot getting out of control of him is definitely also ties into the boss Diavolo's stand, or sort of the double stand of King Crimson and Epitaph, which basically is, what if Dio, but more so?
I thought that King Crimson and Epitaph was like, it was like Killer Queen and Bites the Dust. I thought Epitaph was just like another power that it had.
An evolution.
Yeah. Am I incorrect?
We later then get to see.
It was easy to miss stuff those last, like, 5 episodes. There was a lot going on.
Yeah. And I...
Also... Sorry, you go ahead,
Alex. Also, because of a lot going on, I feel like some characterization elements got lost in the shuffle as well. Like with... I mean, we might as well talk about this here, too, as well. So, at the first half of the series, we got a cameo appearance from a character from Diamond is Unbreakable to sort of serve as a bridging element from between this season and the last. We get Koichi showing up for like a couple episodes, gets in a stand fight, leaves to go do some tourism stuff and go home.
Makes it very clear that in his mind, at least, that Giorno is a JoJo.
Yep. Like, okay, this guy's a JoJo.
Passes the baton.
We're cool.
Yep.
Back half of the series, though, we get the return of Polnareff.
Jean-Pierre Polnareff, who is done dirty.
Oh, yeah, and that's I think part of the problem is because it's so rushed, we don't actually get any time with Polnareff.
No.
Like
he's there. He's in a wheelchair. Now he's a turtle. Like
Polnareff is there. He has figured out there's something with Diavolo. And his move is to start talking to former minions as opposed to his good buddy Jotaro. And Star Platinum is perfectly made to deal with this guy. Like, okay, you can erase time. I stop it before that can even come into point. Like,
yeah.
David's like, why not Jotaro?
Why not Jotaro?
I mean, obviously the answer is because this is Giorno's story, but in universe, it's like, yeah, why didn't Polnareff call Jotaro?
And even like there's an opportunity if you had more time to have that conversation where Polnareff reaches out to Jotaro and says, hey, can you come help me with this guy? And Jotaro says, no, I can't because of some reason or another. But I know who can help you, and that's what leads to him getting pointed towards Giorno.
Yeah.
There
was perfect opportunity for that. You're right.
I think what would have been better is if Koichi hadn't been in this show at all, and it had been like a full Normo Polnareff at the very beginning. Because Polnareff has history with Dio. It would have made sense for Jotaro to ask his old friend, who has business with him, like, hey, make sure the son of that guy we lost so many friends beating is okay. Like, make sure he's not going to be a problem. And Polnareff goes, and he like, okay, yeah, he's fine. And then Polnareff's there in Italy, he starts noticing things, and that's when he gets pulled into and taken out by Diavolo and has to go into hiding.
Yeah.
It would have made sense for then why, okay, Jotaro's here. Jotaro, is there. He's trusted me with this. And this Dio's kid, we're going to make sure he is actually on the up and up.
That would have worked too.
I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how we were pointing out last time that the series is just missing some connective tissue that would have contextualized all the stuff that's going on. Like, the show becomes like one stand fight per episode in a way that is detrimental to the actual telling of the story.
Like, it feels like it wants to be Stardust Crusaders again, with the genuine journey towards a destination and then an exciting final conflict with stand users in that area.
It really does feel like that. They even do the cool bit with the opening sequence
and
where it changes.
Yeah.
And I was there for that. I was 100% cool.
Like, that's the thing, is that I have so many problems with this season. I think it is the weakest overall. But it's still JoJo. It's still JoJo. It's still entertaining. It could have been so much better with just a little work.
Just needed a little work. You're right.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed it. I'm still gonna rewatch it. Maybe not as often as I rewatch Stardust Crusaders, but
I still think the ways that it keeps things fresh are good. The different stand user powers, the different absolutely wacky villains, and then that like unexpected body swapping, like right at the end.
Oh yeah, like doing the Freaky Friday body swap story right at the absolute end of the series, and having and having it be a also degree of paranoia with that as well, because we get to the which person,
one of us is the baddie.
Yeah. JoJo's as a series on the whole is really good at hiding its villains. Like, the villains always have some clever way to avoid a direct fight until it's time for the big old confrontation, which I appreciate.
So it's time to just start throwing punches.
Yeah, I love it. Now, going back to Diavolo for a moment, that's an out there design. I don't mind it.
Like, in any previous JoJo series, his design would have been way out there. But given what the previous designs we've seen in this leading up to it,
it fits in this one.
It's like, he's not the worst.
But I will say that I feel like both Doppio's kind of goofiness and Diavolo's flamboyance don't really match up well with what we have kind of been building in our heads as a picture of the boss of Passione over the course of the series. Like, I was expecting more of a kind of very self-contained, prone to fits of explosive rage person, and I don't know. I don't think Diavolo matched what I was thinking of that whole time. Okay. Your mileage may vary on that.
Yeah.
His stand lived up to expectations, though.
Inexplicably explosive rage. That's Fugo.
I have my own issues with Fugo.
Oh, God. Thankfully, he's not in this half.
Yeah, that's true. He drops off right at the beginning, where it's like, hey, y'all are going against the boss? Okay, I'm out.
Respect. I did like that little bit when they were all deciding whether or not to follow Bruno into this madness. I thought that was good.
Yeah, like...
It's like, who are you loyal to, the organization, or are you loyal to your capo?
I feel like, again, that almost could have stood to had a little more time, because that's such a pivotal, like, character moment. Like, we all knew this was coming, but we weren't expecting it to happen so soon,
Like, it took, 3 minutes?
Yeah.
That is the kind of thing where it would have been interesting to have an inter-party fight. Not like, we're definitely trying to kill each other, but you're making a mistake and I'm desperately trying to stop you. This is going to get you killed, and I can't kill you because I don't want you to die. But if you do this, I know you're going to die.
And I appreciate, also not to mention this is, how Narancia fits in with this as well. Because he, he's the one who's, at the basically absolute last minute is I want to stay with Fugo, but I want to go with my friends. And ultimately deciding to go with the rest of the group. And not to mention that, the decision Narancia makes leads to his death.
It does.
Of our party members, he is, depending on how you count it, either the second or third to die.
And I don't know that had enough time either, because Narancia says something like, when all this is over, I think I'm going to go back to school. And as he's saying this, I was like, oh God, he's going to die. And then he's just gone, in the next 60 seconds, gone.
I don't mind a sudden death in these circumstances. In a weird way, it fits with, because this JoJo's story is still trying to play with the conceits of mafia movies. And this absolutely fits with that, where in mafia movies, you'll have character deaths happen out of nowhere. To bring up the Goodfellas example, you have Joe Pesci walking into the house where he thinks he's about to get made, and then all of a sudden, boom, right in the back of the head.
I had no problem with that. I just didn't think they followed up with it appropriately, because they didn't have time. There was too much going on.
Yeah.
Abacchio got a little more of a send-off.
Yeah.
Abacchio's death, he was able to, spin his death into still advancing our protagonists.
Yeah.
Their quests. And Mista should not be alive. That man was shot so many times.
Pretty sure Mista's invincible.
I don't think he's invincible, but he's in way too much pain to be invincible.
He's just constantly being shot and stuff, and he's always fine.
That man needs bullet immunity or something. He might have it, actually.
If Giorno pre-deceases Mista, just half of Mista's body will turn into random objects, I swear. From all of the times Giorno had to patch him up.
Well, that's the question, okay, but when Buccharati dies, how does everyone's hands not just start falling off because he zipped them all back on?
Yeah. How indeed. Literally everyone loses a hand in this show.
That does bug me a little, is the sort of the way they got a little fast and loose with how the stands work.
They did.
That was previously stands evolve, stands can change a little over time, stands can get stronger. But usually they're not
the arrow thing.
Yeah. Usually they're not, okay, now it's working in a different way, now it's sort of working in the same way again.
I found it interesting that when, going kind of into the metaphysical lore of this show, when Polnareff had Silver Chariot stab itself with the arrow, Silver Chariot's Requiem version became almost... It became autonomous. I don't want to say it became free-willed or free-souled.
Independent?
Because it was operating on a set of programming instructions almost in what it wouldn't do. But Polnareff had no control over it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Versus when Giorno and Golden Experience stabs Golden Experience with the arrow. Giorno kind of like Golden Experience Requiem is able to do stuff that even Giorno is not aware of, because it explicitly says that. It's like, not even Giorno knows what I'm doing right now. But Giorno is still able to control his stand. So it's just kind of interesting, you know? Does it matter who stabs? Like, if the stand stabs itself, is that different from their master stabbing it? Is that different from some random person stabbing it?
Isn't that different than actually just being shot with it?
Is it just as the plot demands? That's fine.
I mean,
but
although in a weird way,
usually JoJo explains the nonsense.
Yeah, usually they explain.
Although that said, with what Chariot Requiem was doing, we had a bit of a precedent for that sort of with the notorious BIG fight, where that
was an interesting one. Right?
Yeah, where that one's that one is a fully autonomous stand. In fact, it is powered by the death of its welder. Which, boy, that...
My question is, how did they figure that out? How did they go to this guy and say, so we know that your stand is going to activate when you die? It's like, how did you guys figure that out?
Honestly, I'm assuming that wasn't the plan. It's just, they lucked into it. Like, the guy was like so much of I'm going to just do the mission.
He just walked right up and was totally cool with being shot. Like, he knew... Like,
my question is, did his stand let him get shot because it knew? Or, like, except his stand, we don't see, like, any reaction. It's, like, pure autonomy.
A lot of stands in this series are just, like, I have questions, you know?
Like, I don't mind if you break the rules that you'd established in previous series, as long as you give me, like, a reason for it.
Even a stupid reason. I loved Trish and Spice Girl, though.
Yeah.
That was great. I loved seeing Trish actually become a character as opposed to...
a plot device?
A plot device, yeah. And how do we feel about that absolutely insane decision for my man Bruno to be essentially undead for most of this?
Oh, yeah. And
for
that was interesting, and I appreciate them like dropping the hints about it, and like him him realizing like I am sustaining myself basically by pure will, and that can only last for so long, and with like Giorno picking up on it, like buddy, you're not looking so good.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
Also, how?
Like, no.
How did it happen? Because we'd previously seen after, Giorno cannot bring people back to life. He has tried.
Bruno and Giorno have a whole conversation in the car about it, but it's not a super enlightening conversation.
It's essentially,
which is fine. But I think essentially what happened is that Bruno died, like for a minute. And Giorno was, like, pumping his body full of life energy, and Bruno was able to, like, will himself back, like, I'm not done yet. And then that kind of sustained him for a while.
But it didn't work with, what's his name?
With Narancia.
Yeah.
Because maybe Narancia was done. I don't know. I don't know what the parameters
are. Arguing Narancia is not as strong-willed as Buccharati is an easy argument to make.
Yeah.
It's an assumption, not an argument.
Yeah.
And Bacchio didn't even have the option, because they found him already having been dead for a time. So that's possible. We don't know. They don't know.
Or the boss learned his lesson.
It's a great mystery. Boss
learned his lesson. Okay, I'm gonna just erase the time that they would normally have to save you, because that was bullshit. You are super dead now, and
I don't know. It was very interesting. I do think that it kind of worked with the story, because over the course of this, second half, it seemed very obvious that Bruno was pushing to accomplish this goal that he and Giorno had agreed upon, but he was also kind of designating Giorno his heir in terms of getting this done and leading them forward afterwards. Because I think Bruno knew from the moment, he started injuring himself and having no reaction, that his time was limited, you know?
Yeah, but why is Jordo the newest member of the Heir? Look at the others.
Look at the others, they
it's
can
like,
handle it.
there is not enough. It's like, is Jordo the best choice? Of the available options, yes. Is he a good choice? No.
But he's better than the rest of these chuckleheads.
You can tell Bruno's thinking about what's going to happen, because he makes that offer to Trish, you know, when this is all over, you can have my house back in Napoli, because I'm not going to be using it. Like, he doesn't say that, but that's the implication.
Better question, is anyone going to get on Giorno's case for skipping all that school? How, militant are the truancy officers? Because he clearly, wants to protect his, his town, so he's gonna go back.
Anyway, Bruno's my favorite, of course.
So,
I mean, Bruno is one of the few who actually got to be a character, as opposed to just a list of traits.
Yeah, Bruno basically drives a large portion, most of the plot for this entire thing. Is compared to the previous series where generally it's the JoJo, whatever JoJo we have in the past seasons has been the one who has directed the plot to varying degrees, or even at the start of Stardust Crusaders, while it's not Jotaro who's driving the plot, it is Joseph who is doing it instead. So it's still a JoJo.
I mean, I'd argue that Jotaro was doing that in Diamond is Unbreakable.
Yeah. Whereas here, it's Bruno. I guess you could.
Yeah, it's not Team Giorno. It's Team Buccharati.
Yeah. I mean, he is the capo. Literally, they do follow him to varying degrees of success.
Yeah. So speaking of which, let's talk about some of the stand fights and fight conclusions. This season. I really liked the stand fight with Risotto versus Diavolo. Those to kick things off.
Risotto finally comes out of the shadows and does something.
Oops.
He loses
and gets himself killed.
Gets himself killed, but it's a close thing.
It was close.
It like his powers do not make his stand's powers the ability to control iron does not make any sense with what his character can do. At all. Even a little. I'm invisible. How? Manipulating the iron in bodies doesn't do that.
Magneto comes over and goes, bullshit.
Okay, Magneto's power is controlling the electromagnetic spectrum, which includes light. It is not often that writers remember that, but it's been there since the beginning. I want someone to do the fan comic. I may have to write it myself, which is just for freaking Risotto going, I am manipulating iron to make myself invisible so you cannot see, and then all of a sudden, the camera panel just tilts over, and there's Magneto, full red outfit with the helmet and everything, just stands there for a second, looks at him, and goes, bullshit.
Bullshit. No one's buying it. You just
iron doesn't work that way. Also, what is wrong with your eyes?
That needs to be in the waiting for the trade style of comic. There's just to be a one shot waiting for the tankobon.
That whole episode was extremely well done because it did a number of different things. First of all, you had 3 different factions going on at the same time. You had Team Buccharati and Risotto and Doppio. Doppio, I loved his little phone gag of making random things the phone and then making the ringing voice with his mouth and then talking to the boss that way. And they establish that Diavolo needs a little time to, like, fully manifest through Doppio, which I thought was interesting. I also thought, like, Doppio is weirdly likable, even though there's no secret that he is a bad person.
I mean, well,
so that was kind of interesting how the show pulled that off.
Well, the question is Doppio a bad person?
I think Doppio is a bad person, yes. But a strangely likable bad person.
And I like the little, like, just little gags. They like some of the ways that the phone thing manifests as well. Like when Doppio's on the flight and talking to the boss on what looks like on an actual phone, and then once the conversation's over, he hands the toy phone back over to the kid in the seat next to him, who is really confused.
And then one time it's a frog, and then one time he snatches some poor girl's ice cream. Yeah.
Shoves the ice cream into his face.
Give me my phone back. So that's wild. I think it's interesting that the Diavolo, when he is having these conversations with Doppio, refers to Doppio as, like, my sweet little Doppio, my poor little Doppio. Like, you are clearly the wooby in this situation.
My sweet idiot.
Yeah, exactly. My sweet idiot. And yet he entrusts Doppio with handling all this. Like, Diavolo could theoretically have come out at any time prior to showing up in this area where he knew Risotto might be.
Like, also the reason, why is it Doppio? No one knows what the boss looks like. Yeah. No one knows what Diavolo looks like.
He could have just gone as himself.
He could have just gone as himself, like, you know, checking out the area as a tourist.
He's so paranoid, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it was interesting.
Like I said, it makes more sense if
clearly neither Doppio nor Diavolo are quite all there. But they did manage to build a vast criminal organization, so I guess props.
Yeah.
I think that's more to do with the writer than with the character.
True.
Diavolo has, you know, what they call the informed attribute. Like, we're told he's a brilliant, you know, criminal mastermind. Nothing he has done displays that to the audience.
Right.
So we also have the various special unit fights. We have Clash and Squalo and Tizano with Clash and Talking Head. That one was fun. Nice with another, like, big moment for Narancia to kind of get the W on this one. Like, it basically takes out two different stand welders in the same fight, which was pretty awesome. Actually, of the various antagonist stand welders, I think the one who I have the biggest complaint about is actually Green Day, Chocolata and Green Day.
Oh my god.
Chocolata, they established immediately, is just, like, the worst of the worst. And even the boss is like, yeah, that guy is messed up.
And I think my problem I have with this one is most of the stand fights, like, up to this point, with a few exceptions, have generally been, like, nobody is like an actual, like, stand WMD kind of situation. Like, we have, like, a bit of a thread of that with Fugo and Purple Haze's Virus. Yeah. But, like, then we have Green Day, which is, like, so much worse, where, like, he takes out an entire fishing village, and the whole point of that of the final fight with him is, if we don't take him out, he's going to wipe out Rome.
All of Rome, yeah.
And I'm like, at this point, like, shouldn't he be the actual, like, final boss of the thing in a weird way? In terms of, like, it makes the situation, like, how much harder can the final boss be by comparison? When I was going through that, because, like, this guy could potentially just inadvertently murk the boss. And
well, I think what's interesting is that would make a lot of sense. Except his fight is really boring.
Yeah.
Like, what's your power? Oh, I can, infect you with killer mold if you go down. If I go down, if your height decreases somehow. But it'll be really inconsistent how it's implemented.
It'll be very inconsistent how it works. Also, my partner is someone who can lower the level of the earth beneath you, but this only ever comes up once.
Also, my partner keeps going up and down and seemingly... And speaking of Sekko, his stand is much like White Album, it's a suit. Unlike... I cannot remember White Album's user. He is not wearing a suit underneath. So, since stands cannot be seen by normal people, is Sekko just running around naked as far as normal people are concerned? Or does he have, like, a surgical gown on or something? Because, like, there are, like, gaps in his, in Oasis where you can see his skin beneath, so...
I mean, he is...
Dunno.
he is kind of set up as basically being... Not to put too fine on point of it, the Gimp to Cicolata's Gimp.
It's got some Igor vibes. And...
Yeah, because it's not. Yeah. It's like a really like their dynamic is weird in like a lot of ways. Like actually, that's a lot of ways. Not so much weird. Back up a second. Sekko's clearly BDSM coded. BDSM Gimp coded.
Oh. Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised that his outfit doesn't involve a ball gag. In terms of how heavily BDSM coded it is. So,
I can tell you why it doesn't. Because then we wouldn't get all the weird tongue action that the author loves so much.
Fair.
The tongues in this show.
Why?
Yeah.
Right up until Chocolata dies, in which case Sekko starts, fucking cursing him out.
I was only following you because you were supposed to be super strong and stuff. But now I see you are a bitch. Like...
It's like, so are you going to transfer loyalty? No, you're still going to... If you're following strength, why aren't you then trying to follow the, person who has proven stronger?
Very disturbing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, like that fight was was weird, and I didn't particularly like it very much. Like,
yeah,
I appreciated the tension of we have to get to the Colosseum first, but yeah, that was like one of the only things I really enjoyed about it. Bruno running underground using zippers while Oasis was following him. I liked that part. And the way Bruno kind of like faked him out.
Here you are! Oh no, it's a car!
Whoops. But this is one of those things where like later on in the season we get to see the effects of Requiem on like just random ordinary citizens walking around. But during this whole fight where supposedly the populace is being affected by this green mold, it's like the streets are empty, man. The streets are empty, the Colosseum is empty. We don't get to see like ordinary people until like Bruno goes onto like a street. And it's like, oh, here's Doppio, who could theoretically be a random person. But where is everyone?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of inconsistent in terms of, do ordinary people exist? And how affected are they by these events? And I get it. Crowd scenes are a bitch to animate. And crowded cities like Rome would be like almost impossible. But it can be done. Like...
And we had some crowd scenes and crowds impacted by the Jotaro and Dio fight all the way back in Stardust Crusaders. Because like there was the whole bit with the time stop where Dio was just going around just messing up wrecking random people and animals. Speaking of which, I'm glad with the bodily swap sequence, the dog came out okay.
Yeah.
Like, I expected that something terrible to happen to that dog.
Yeah.
I mean, the trauma of, like, everyone involved.
The baby and the mom swapping, that was so horrifying to me.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
Moving on.
Speaking of horrifying, let's talk about how Diavolo goes out in that fight once Gold Experience Requiem kicks in. That, like, we've had some impressive ways for villains to be taken out over the course of this series.
It went full horror.
Like, this one is like, this one has, like Cars is looking at this going, I got off easy. I just got dejected into the depths of deep space where I slowly went insane.
That's
oh my god!
At least that's only happened to you once.
Honestly, when they said it was like a meteorite, and was turned into it, I was like, oh my god! Did Cars like crash? Is he back? Did they turn his butt? Oh, this is like ancient. Oh, okay.
It wasn't Cars. Maybe it came from the same place.
But yeah, like
we do get more lore.
I think it's pretty obvious that when the meteor came down and they made it into the arrows, I think that's very clearly associated with Cars and the other pillar.
Yeah. But yeah, like when you're going through the whole death sequence, we're like, oh, like
multiple death sequences.
Where he's like seemingly punched to death. Like, okay, he climbs out and he's in the sewer tunnel, and then he gets stabbed to death by the junkie. You're like, oh, poetic justice, because Diavolo's the one who was pushing drugs instead of the drug market. It's like he's getting hoisted by his own petard, and then the autopsy scene starts. Yeah. And he's like, and Diavolo's like fully conscious, aware of what's happening in his body, and like, oh, that's kind of vicious and brutal. And then all of a sudden, we shift to the street corner. I'm like, okay, is this a reference to like earlier with where we had the street, that whole situation with Abacchio? Are we doing that? No, he's dying again, and then we get the explanation of what's happened. Like, oh, that's vicious and horrible. I love it. And I also like the fact that Gold Experience Requiem is hiding the fact that it's doing this from Giorno, because it's kind of like, yeah.
It almost had to, because Giorno is not that vicious or petty. But I also think it makes perfect sense for Gold Experience Requiem, because his whole thing is that he has a stand that gives life. So what he's doing is just giving life over and over again, and then it ends messily. Just gives it back. It ends messily, he gives it back. You know what I'm saying? It fits with his previously established powers, but it is, like, so horrifying. Like,
like he's giving too much life to King Crimson. Like, okay, you're erasing this time, so you're alive, and I'm giving you life, so you're alive again. But you don't, but
yeah.
Die.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And then also what do we think about the last episode of this last couple episodes of the series?
Yes, we need to talk about this weird thing that they did right at the end, where we get the flashback with this whole thing that brings up concepts of fate and predestination. So I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it. Like, I feel that fate as a concept is pretty well established in the JoJo universe. But I've never been a huge fan of it in terms of, like, philosophically speaking.
I mean, it essentially turned the entire season into one giant Final Destination movie.
Kind of.
Like, okay, you're gonna die, you're gonna keep trying to get out of it, but you're not gonna...
Because we've seen stands in the past that have been able to predict the future, right?
But the thing is, all of those times you could change the future, or it's...
fate.
I mean, that was, what's the second what's King Crimson's, like, the little face? Epitaph. Like, Epitaph could see the future. And Doppio using it is like, oh god, I'm gonna die. Oh no, it's just the invisible iron that made me look like I had a giant hole in my head.
And then we had, like, Oingo Boingo's book.
Yeah,
right?
so,
and we
like...
had, now we have Rolling Stones.
Things happen, but not necessarily the way we expected them to. And to a lesser extent, we can just straight up change them.
I think if I really kind of sit and think about it, the stand wielder who had Rolling Stones thought that they should have just kind of given in originally when fate said Bruno was going to die. He thinks Bruno should have just gone along with it and spared other stuff happening in the future. But that's very counter to the spirit that Bruno and all the JoJo's have, which is you kind of keep fighting no matter what. You do your best and you don't give up.
Do not go quiet into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think Bruno obviously didn't know that by cheating death with Rolling Stones, he was dooming Abbacchio and Narancia to die. And I'm not sure it would have changed anything he did. Honestly, I feel like he would have embodied that JoJo spirit and kept going, thinking, there's always a way out and we can change it if we try really hard.
But also the thing is even if Rolling Stone is correct, who's to say they weren't going to die anyways? Who's to say that the death that Buccharati had isn't the one he was going to have anyways, that, Rolling Stone was trying to relieve him of?
You can't have it both ways. Is fate inevitable or not?
I know, that's the thing.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah. It's it doesn't make sense. It's either, okay, I'm trying to change this fate by killing you early, at which point the fate isn't actually solid, or... Yeah.
So they try to have it both ways, where they have this huge final battle, big triumphant JoJo victorious ending, but then all of a sudden they have this entire episode of this very philosophical and what's the word I'm looking for? Convoluted almost story that kind of tries to redefine everything that came before, but with mixed success, I feel.
I think... Yeah.
And it also tosses in, just talking about over the course of all those various Mafia movie references, the two most direct Mafia movie references of the film so far. It's we open the story straight up with the freaking opening of The Godfather, except not on a wedding day.
Yep.
They don't quite do the exact same lines because they're set in Italy rather than the United States. And so the lines that are about the immigrant experience don't really apply. But we have those, and then we end with the final shot, which is basically freaking Giorno as Michael Corleone. Except instead of closing the door, we're looking in through an open window.
I love that Giorno is wearing his same outfit. It's just black. I think it looks great on him.
I think for this episode, I think it would have been a lot better, and I think it would have made the entire season much better if it had been the first episode and not the last. I think we should have seen it first. But I think...
Would it have worked before you knew who any of these people were?
No. That's the thing. It's it would have confused you. Okay, what's going on? Why is this important? And then, what's going on? But then you see, okay, if you don't do this, you're going to die. So then it becomes that, we have the ticking bomb under the table, we've seen it, and then we have just the normal conversation. It's the death's coming, you don't know how it's going to happen.
Yep.
But then you don't have a buy-in with a JoJo showing up in the first episode, which I think is already, we were talking about, kind of becoming a problem where it's I feel like almost Bruno should have been the main character, you know what I mean? That would have just centered Bruno even more.
I don't think that's a bad thing. Mm. I mean, very clearly from the beginning, this was Bruno's story. This was not Giorno's story. This is, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But this is very much Bruno's story the whole time. Giorno may be the main character, but it's Bruno's story.
Yeah, it is kind of Giorno stated his goal right in the beginning, and then he achieved his goal at the end. But it's only been I don't know, a month or less of real time. What's he gonna do now? I feel like his story just started.
And the thing is, he may have accomplished his goal, but it wasn't he helped, but it was Bruno the whole time.
Yeah.
It was Bruno carrying him along.
I do think the last episode is really well structured to show how Bruno is kind of passing on his dream to Giorno, and Giorno is going to be the one to see it through. because you know, Buccharati is getting the respect from the civilian, like, as the leader of the gang, and then at the end we see Giorno getting that same respect, and it's like, well, it's on you now. You have to fill Bruno's dream.
You're the capo now. High school freshman.
Yeah, right? Seriously.
I mean, is he gonna start getting a bass sense in the middle of homeroom? Like, I've come to offer you, but Giorno, could you please have them do this outside school hours? If that's all right with you, capo.
I want to give you a C on this assignment, if that's all right with you, boss. Like,
I don't think you did your best work here.
I won't if you don't want me to. Yeah, okay. But my understanding is that after next season, after Stone to Ocean, we end up in kind of a parallel dimension / reality, so we never really learn how it goes for Giorno. Like, things assume that they're going to be great from now on, but I mean, running a mafia enterprise is not easy. So, yeah. I don't know.
I just think it should have ended with Giorno in his black suit being handed a letter and just like, what do you mean Passione is being bought by the Speedwagon Foundation? Who are they?
Yes!
You know, you can't say it didn't happen. They changed reality. You can't say it didn't.
That's my new headcanon. Hell yeah.
He goes to work for the Speedwagon Foundation. Why? I can do more good for the world this way.
Speedwagon Foundation buys the mob.
I mean...
So, okay, given that we've all agreed that Bruno is...
the main character?
I mean, more or less the main character. I mean, how do we feel about the fact that Bruno could... Like, the way the story is set up, I don't think Bruno could ever have survived, because there's kind of this implication that in order to get where he was, Bruno had to do things that were not great, because that's how it worked. And Giorno gets to kind of bypass all that and be the kind of puer eternal, uncorrupted
He killed
youth.
He killed Polpo.
He did kill Polpo.
I think...
I forgot about that for a moment.
He killed Polpo. He straight up had tricked Leaky Eye Luca into killing himself. Like, Giorno did not have a bloodless rise. I think, like, Buccharati definitely took on a lot of it, but Giorno is definitely the second kill happiest JoJo.
I mention it because there's this theme in a lot of anime where, like, go forth the hope and promise of youth. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It was like, we, the older generation, will take the sins upon ourselves so that you can be blameless.
That attitude.
It was like, yeah, thank you for taking my sins. I killed your boss, which allowed you to be the capo, by the way. Also,
I think also this does tie into the, again, I mean, honestly, with the mafia movies stuff, because in order to become a mafia guy, to be a made guy, you got to make your bones, and he made his bones. He took out Leaky Eye Luca, and he took out Polpo.
Yep.
And for the second one, and for Polpo, he managed to take him out in a way that was untraceable back to him. The only person who really figured it out was Bruno, and Bruno probably didn't mind if Polpo went out anyway.
I mean, even with Luca's weapon, Luca's, brain damage was done by his own weapon. So there's nothing to say he didn't trip and smash his own head against.
Giorno's powers are uniquely suited to getting away.
Worth noting is that he completely forgets about the any damage you do to my creations is done to you instead, which would have been really flippin' helpful in the final battle.
Yeah. This is true. Yes.
It's like, that was an establishing character thing. I thought it was going to come up in their final battle, being like, oh, by the way, remember this?
Nope, we forgot about it as well, said the writing team.
Not to mention all the time, all the like the body parts he's replaced with, creations. When someone hits them, is that person getting hit too? The one who did it because it's one of Giorno's creations?
Maybe I read too many books with complicated magic systems, but I'm actually very willing to believe that if you graft something onto someone with a stand, it will eventually be absorbed by their own soul and just become part of them. Because otherwise, crazy stuff gonna be happening.
Otherwise, as soon as you get, 3 meters away from Giorno...
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's just a lot cleaner if they just literally become part.
Yeah, you have Giorno yelling, "I'm not actually a healer, I can't do that," and yet he's doing it all the time.
How many times has he fixed Mista?
Mista is basically his Frankenstein at this point.
Let me die, Giorno. No, I need a trigger man.
And yes,
please!
I did mean Frankenstein's monster. Don't at me.
I mean, to be fair, he is referred to as, Victor is called Father. Usually, dads pass their name on to their kid. So, Adam Frankenstein is, I think, a fully accurate way.
Don't at us. We've read Frankenstein.
We know our classics. Some of us have had to defend our opinions in papers on them.
All right. Well, so we've been going for a while.
I think all the heavy fates
for a while on this. Where do we? So this is JoJo arc series 4, basically. So how do we think this falls? This is the weakest of the JoJo compared to, say, season 1 with Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency. How would you consider this in the general JoJo standings?
It's better than season 1 for me, but that is purely on the basis of the genres I like. I love mafia stuff.
I think it was better done than Battle Tendency. I think the story is less generic, but also not as good. I think Battle Tendency... Phantom Blood is solid horror. I like Phantom Blood. It's not my favorite, but I do like Phantom Blood. But I think as far as adaptations go, this one's way better than that just because they've had years to get better at making the show.
True.
I still don't like the fact that they'll randomly switch color palettes, though, but...
Yep.
I like that.
I know you do. I don't. It's a personal thing.
Also, I learned that a lot of times when they do that, they're mimicking the covers of the manga volumes, which I think is really cool. Or when someone gets a color change in an outfit, it's to match one of the manga covers.
That may be true. However, just because you're copying something else that I don't like doesn't make me like it.
Well, I liked it on its own merits. Yeah. So.
I
just think that's a cool detail.
I was very much bugged by it because of the seemingly random timing they do it.
I do think the timing could make more sense, yes.
I feel like
it was better in previous seasons when they utilized that.
I think it would make more sense if they did that when stands are being used. To show that this is a world that they are seeing that normal people aren't.
I loved the 3 versions of the opening theme. That was great. I actually think the opening themes, both of them, were great. The music was great.
What do you think? What do you think of the ending themes?
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say I wasn't a huge fan of...
honestly, I'm not. I didn't. They're not. It's not a genre of music I really I listened to. It's not one that I particularly enjoy.
It's I see where you're coming from with freaking you, but
I really don't.
I don't feel like you had to make that explicit.
Yeah, and Modern Crusaders by Enigma. I did give that a full listen to on my one morning on my way to work. It's all right. I like it. I like it better than freaking you. But also, how to put this? It's a song from the early 2000s when everybody had pop culture had discovered Carl Orff's Carmina Burana and
Latin
shoved it
chanting.
into everything. And
like, if you wanted to be generous, you could say they were reaching for a reference to Rome with all that Latin chanting, but I don't think it.
Yeah, particularly
works.
not Carmina Burana, which is not trying not to evoke Rome, but almost a bit of a more medieval. Like the use is attempting to evoke a more medieval feeling, but still the piece doesn't work. Like it felt like how to put this. They went, oh, we want to put a piece of classical music in there or something, and we're going to go with something where the source music is in the public domain, so I can find the cheapest version possible to license for the sample, or the least expensive version to the license for the sample.
And they cut out the percussion that makes it so impactful, so it was even kind of like a wishy-washy version of the Carmina Burana samples.
Yeah.
Like,
not to mention, there's like so many better choices from that era. Of, if they wanted that sort of thing, that sort of feel, there are way better choices.
Yeah. But the opening themes
opening themes excellent. I really liked, in particular, for the tail end of the season when they did the tweaking the opening to reflect the revelations we've had about characters' stands. Like they've done that they did that with Stardust Crusaders. They did it in Diamond is Unbreakable. And when they did it here, I love it every time. I'm always a sucker for that. But
the Italian was pretty good too. We were watching it in Japanese with subtitles, and I assumed they had the Japanese voice actor reading the Italian dialogue for Diavolo, and it sounded all right. To my admittedly somewhat untrained ear, but I do have Italian relatives, so
Sicilian.
Yes.
They would not appreciate being called Italian.
Well,
yeah, that's right.
So
you're correct in that.
I'm aware.
But they do speak Italian. They don't speak the Sicilian dialect.
This is true.
So any final thoughts on Golden Wind?
It may not be as strong storytelling wise as other seasons, but honestly, it's still JoJo and it's still a fun ride.
Yeah, I love it, but I feel like there are things about it I want to fix.
Yeah.
As opposed to just unabashedly loving Diamond is Forever.
This is the one if I was inclined to, this is the one I'd write fics about.
Fic. Oh, they're out there, baby.
I don't doubt it. I'm just saying, is like a lot of times
Actually, it's really interesting to judge how good a show is by the amount of fics written about it. Mm-hmm. Because, sometimes they're so good that people don't really feel the need to write many fics about it. Outside of shipping fics, that's a different whale. But, fics, yeah.
I remember I saw something, it was like, you know what? I decided to, I really liked this pairing. I decided to go on AO3 and read some people's visions, and there were none. And I was like, oh, I have made a mistake in my shipping somehow. Let's keep watching before I put any investment in.
Yeah. So
I cannot remember which show that was.
So that I enjoyed it. Next year we will have Stone Ocean, which will probably be our last summer of JoJo, because probably by that point. We'll be in position to watch Steel Ball run as it comes out, depending on that show's release date. So that'll work more for us. But yeah, next month, however, we have a tentative guest lined up, and we'll be watching another classic anime film with the original Ghost in the Shell.
Oh yeah, back to hard sci-fi.
Did we not already watch
No, we did double feature of Akira.
Oh, no. I have watched it so many times. I've even watched...
Yeah, I've watched it a bunch. You've watched it a bunch. Our special guest, assuming everything lines up properly, will be coming in completely cold. So,
all right.
I've got the volumes of manga when they were brought over by Dark Horse. I'm a huge fan of Ghost in the Shell.
I have
even the shot-for-shot remake that in CG that they did, 2.0.
I have a curiosity that I am undoubtedly going to come to regret, but I feel like after we watch the original anime film, we should watch the horrifying American remake just to see.
I see where you're coming from. I feel like if we're going to do that, we need to watch the live action first. To just, get this was so much better, instead of why am I subjecting myself to this? I mean, there will be a little bit of that anyways, but...
I'm one of those weirdos that likes trying to figure out all the different decisions that were made, so I could be like, well, that was a wrong turn, and that was a wrong turn, and that was a wrong turn,
Well, that will be...
Green lighting it wasn't the first mistake that they made, but it was definitely one of them.
But that will be next month. So if you want to submit comments for the discussion of Ghost in the Shell, please send those to animeexplorationspod at gmail.com, or post them in the comments to this video on YouTube. And if we get anything, we'll read those on the podcast. But if we don't get anything, that's okay too. What you can also do is, if you enjoy what you heard, you can back our Patreon at patreon.com/count0or. Patreon backers get access to this and other, all my other videos and actual plays and all that wonderful stuff up to 1 week in advance. And if that doesn't work with how your financial structure is, I understand financial times are tough these days. I have a Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/count0. And that's just a one-time tip jar thing. You can just toss a few bucks in there, whatever fits with your budget. All right. So until next month, thank you all very much for listening.
All right, guys. See you next month.
Bye!